Hello everybody, this is the Game Biz Wolf, and today we are going to talk about a game called Halfway. It came out in 2014 for Windows, OS X and Linux, so it is now 7 years old. Halfway is a tactical turn-based game, similar to XCOM, but in contrast to XCOM it is a smaller, more focused experience. It has only basic features and a pixel art style that I personally love. You have several characters to choose from, a list-based inventory system, several weapons and armor types that allow you to specialize your characters. For example, a long-range sniper, mobile assault troop, or short-range brawler. Your characters have health, shield strength, which is a value coming from the armor you wear, agility, which is used to dodge attacks, and an aiming skill, which helps you hit enemies. Your weapons differ in their min and max damage, melee damage, range, and ammo clip size. You can improve your character's stats permanently by applying up to 5 stimpaks that improve one or more of your character's stats. It's simple, but enough to be fun. The setting is nothing new but makes sense and supports the game very well. You have a science fiction humanity that's governed by evil corporations. There are Class A citizens, the elite, Class B citizens, the normal people, and Class C citizens who have lost their rights and are basically slaves that can be exploited for human experimentations. The level design reflects this. While the regular crew quarters on the spaceship are tight, the suits of the Class A citizens are huge and lavish. 13, or as he was formerly known, Frank, is a guy that has been taken by a mad scientist, a Class A citizen he was supposed to guard, and turned into a mindless half-robot drone without free will. Humanity has spread over the galaxy, but suddenly the faster-than-light jump ships stopped returning. I won't spoil why, but it's a great setting with potential to put additional games in, since you now have several human colonies that were cut off from Earth and have to struggle for themselves. The story is not more complicated than an 80s action movie with Arnold or Stallone. It doesn't need to be to serve the gameplay. Character background stories are well crafted and they feel authentic. The music is great and supports the science fiction mood. I always turn music off though, so let's move to the next topic. I love the details of the game. When your characters fire, you see the empty shells dropping from their guns and hear the bling 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 sound when they hit the ground. This gives the levels the look and feel of a place where actual fighting took place, and this increases immersion. Besides, it's just hilarious to see the small mountain of brass around the heavy gunner with a Gatling gun. Really great. The levels are handcrafted. When you open a chest or move across a certain tile, you trigger an event. The game plays on the Goliath, one of the faster-than-light ships that never returned. Apart from a few optional levels, the game is strictly linear. It took me 27 hours to play through, but I heavily cheated because I wanted to know how the story ends. The game difficulty ramps up significantly. This is not a casual game where you waltz through tons of levels. This is a game where you experience total party vibes and have to restart the level again and again and again until you master it. The only save feature is automatic at the end of each level. This means it's a punishingly hard game. Together with a tactical turn-based genre and pixel art style, this is a niche within a niche and aimed at a very hardcore audience. The game is very well made for this specific audience, so I would say it's a success in achieving to serve this specific spot in the market. By the way, they also released their mods tool, so this hardcore community can now build their own maps and mods. Great fit for the audience. Let's look at the business side now. The developer is called Robotality, and Halfway was their first title. The next one is Pathway, and also uses this beautiful, colorful pixel art style and turn-based tactics. Halfway was released in 2014 and is sold on Steam, the Humble Bundle, and GOG. You can also buy it directly from the developer's own website, where your money goes directly to the developer instead of Steam taking a 30% cut for the usage of their platform. The team size was really small. 2 German brothers were the core team, 1 coder, 1 artist. They had experience from working in the German game industry. Later, a 3rd person joined as a coder, whom I am even loosely connected with on Facebook through ex-colleagues who were his ex-colleagues. The industry is really small in Germany. Everybody knows everybody. In the credits, they thank one other person with the same last name, which I assume means their father, probably for emotional support, maybe financial support, and a steady supply of sandwiches. Gotta love indie developers. They outsourced the things they couldn't do themselves or didn't have time for, like, for example, the sound or the intro and outro pixel art, which was made by Thomas Tsiangmu Feichtmeier, who is a great pixel artist who was on my personal list of artists to contact when I wanted to make a business of selling pixel art cross-stitching designs. As I said, the world is small. In their blog, Robotality write that they worked for 14 months on Halfway and spent about 37 person months on the title. 2.5 persons core team plus 5 freelancers. So the dev team was a small one, and I assume that if you would pay 50,000 euros per employee per year, plus additional labor costs, a bit of hardware, 0 rent since you don't really need an office, 5 freelancers times about 2,000 euros flat fees, you arrive at development costs of about 220,000 euros. On their blog, Robotality confirms that it cost them 250,000 US dollars, which is about 205,000 euros in May of 2021. If you look at SteamDB info, you can see that the game sold for 10 euros regular price, but had many sales events where it costs only 4 euro, sometimes even 2 euro. It's hard to make a buck with this. I personally bought this game in 2021, 7 years after its launch, for the full 10 euro, and I'm happy with the value I got. Steam Spy assumes that it sold 20,000 to 50,000 units, and the developers confirm that they sold 26,200 games, including bundles. The developer states that they had made a gross revenue of 180,000 US dollars, which is 148,200 euros. It makes sense to publish gross revenue numbers, by the way, since taxes are different in every country, so you cannot really compare net revenue numbers. Anyway, if we assume that an additional 20% of sales come from GOG and an additional 2.5% from the Humble Bundles, then it's fair to assume that the developer made about 100,000 euro net revenue after chargebacks, after taxes, and after Steam fees. By the way, the developer says they had only 0.1% chargebacks or game returns, which is a really low number that fits to the hardcore target audience, I guess. So, 100,000 euros net revenue minus 205,000 euros development costs minus probably 0 euros marketing budget, that makes a loss of about minus 103,000 euros. If the 2 brothers had continued to work as employees, they could have made twice times 50,000 euro salary per year instead. That is very bleak numbers, I'm afraid, but also the harsh reality of indie development. Keep in mind, we are not in the shoes of the Robotality team, and it's easy to be an armchair general, especially after the fact. Nobody can look into the future. Every team has their own strengths and weaknesses, and every game project is different in many ways. Let's examine this one and try to learn something from it. Let's look first at the product, then the development process, and then the distribution. First, the product. If you go to SteamDB info and look at the concurrent users, which is the amount of players who are online at the same time, you see more or less a flat line. This is almost never in the hundreds and stays in the low two-digit numbers. All-time peak was 189 concurrent players, which was 7 years ago around release time. The game has a 73% positive review rating, which means the amount of positive reviews of all the reviews on Steam. Steam Spy cannot estimate the average or median playtime, probably because of lack of data. Robotality measured a median playtime of 1 hour, median, not average, of 1 hour 55 minutes when they measured 11 months after release. The developer reports that 98% of players killed their first enemy, which is a great statistic because it shows you how many of your purchases actually opened the game. But only 6.3% finished the game. 22.5% of players found all characters, which happens in the first quarter or first third of the game. The game offers a linear playthrough with very little replayability. There is no reason you should play it twice if you have finished it. That 3/4 of the customers didn't get further than the first, easiest part of the game tells me it was probably too hard and punishing. That only 6.3% of the customers experienced the end of the game means that all the work spent on this actually affected only a small amount of customers. Maybe the game would have profited from being easier. Changing this is relatively easy if you have experience with balancing. I recommend that you don't make your game too hard. This game had a really low chargeback rate, but a pleasant game is a game that sells a bit through word of mouth. Second, let's look at the development process. It took the 2.5-person team 14 months and 205,000 euros to produce this game. The team used the open source libgdx engine written in Java and for cross-platform desktop and mobile games. Since Halfway was not released on mobile, at least I couldn't find any trace of it on App Annie, I assume that the team encountered problems with the engine preventing this. If the team would have used another engine, this might have allowed them to use existing tools instead of developing their own. On the other hand, this might have created costs, and if the team isn't familiar with the engine, that's another hurdle. I recommend you spend significant time on researching if there is a technology out there that satisfies your needs. Maybe start with an existing engine that costs only a bit of royalties but saves you months of development time. The devil is in the detail, and with free tools you often get what you pay for. Maybe the right way for you is to focus on content creation, using someone else's technology and just building a new game with existing tools. That limits your creativity but allows you to focus on your strengths. Especially if you haven't worked together as a team, I recommend not starting with a game that takes 14 months to develop. Start with something small and optimize your processes. Find an experienced art director willing to review your art pipeline, an experienced producer to review your processes, and a QA lead to help you set up your testing. Most of this costs nothing. Maybe a beer at an industry event or a bit of time sending out emails asking for help. People in the games industry generally love to give feedback. Use this knowledge. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The developer claims they worked with 5 freelancers. In the credits, they list someone for graphics, in addition to the artist core team member. They outsourced music and sound, AI code, in addition to their own coder resource, additional design, illustration work, and trailer production. Sometimes it's time and cost efficient to outsource the work you cannot do yourself, but I wonder if all these people were really necessary. They must have added to the costs. In your first project, keep the costs low. Learn how to build games with this specific team. Learn your tools. Start with small and quick projects. Third, let's look at the distribution. 26,200 sold games is not much. This is the main killer of the project. A low amount of sales combined with a low sales price. I have to assume that the developer had very low marketing budget, if at all, which is understandable for a small indie developer, but keep in mind, producing a game is only half the work. The other half is marketing the product. There are several possible answers to why the game sold so few units or how to improve. Genre. Is there a large enough niche for this tactical turn-based game? Would XCOM succeed if it was launched today? I believe yes. There are other tactical turn-based games like Battle Brothers or Battletech/Shadowrun that show that there is enough interest in the genre. Niches are nice because there's less competition. Art style. Do your research. An art style that feels attractive to you as a developer is not necessarily the right one for your audience or for financial success. App Annie or Sensor Tower can give insights for mobile games. For PC, this is much harder. We only have data that is an indicator at best, but that's still better than just guessing. Sensor Tower looked at the top 100 revenue-generating mobile games in November 2020. The retro pixel style was the only art style with a declining interest in November 2020, which is a relative number. There could theoretically still be a huge demand for pixel art that's just lower than last year's, so we need more info. There is a Newzoo report from December 2020. It includes art style preferences for console adventure games. Not really comparable, but an indicator. After anime, pixel art is the least used art style. Does this mean you should not use pixel art? No. It might mean that there is a huge white spot in the market for an underserved audience. Data needs to be interpreted. In the end, we don't know if Halfway would have been more successful with a different art style. My personal view is that whenever you use pixel art, you are limiting the audience that's interested in your game. Steam presentation. The game thumbnail uses a different art style than the game. There's one trailer plus 10 screenshots. The trailer is 1.5 minutes long. There are 3 reviews from magazines or gaming-related portals. Key features are listed, as well as a playtime of 14 hours. Most people won't scroll down though, so only the first 5 thumbnails are ever seen above the fold by most players. Focus on these. Pricing. You have identified your competitors when you decided on your genre, art style, and key features, didn't you? Now look at this list again and compare prices. If you don't use in-game purchases, you're pretty much stuck with the pay first, play second kind of monetization strategy. If you have low sales numbers plus low prices, you won't succeed. Don't think that you have only a small indie game and therefore you can only take $9.99. Start high. You can always rebate the game down. Read about a concept called price elasticity. I personally worked as a monetization designer for several years, and it hurts my heart to see a game where I think, oh, I'm a hardcore fan, this is a really good game. How can I spend more game on that one thing I love? And there is no way. Don't undersell your work. Audience feedback. I suppose the developer had some kind of feedback from their audience. I suggest you put significant time and effort into this. You need to know if what you're building is going to find an audience. Get feedback, but don't design by committee. This would only produce a Homer Simpson car. You must still have your own vision. Craft questionnaires, which is really difficult to do right, but potentially very valuable. Build a community before you release a game. Start right when you start developing. Yes, this takes away hours that could be spent coding or painting or scripting or creating quests, but it's worth it. Post regularly and spend significant time on this. Have a blog, a Facebook page, Twitter, podcasts, Q&A live streams with the developers, an Instagram page, a Discord channel, a printed newspaper delivered by pigeons. It doesn't matter as long as your audience is there. Ignore the other channels since you have limited resources. Communicate with the audience regularly. Bring the info to them. Don't expect them to search for your game. If you are not talking about your game, nobody will. And nobody will know that it exists. Gather emails and build a list of customers that you can contact when the game launches. Build a streaming-friendly game. Twitch is so important nowadays. Streamers who regularly play games similar to yours have exactly the audience you are looking for. Make their life easier and reserve a spot in your interface for their faces. Engage with them and treat them as your VIPs. Smaller streamers tend to have a very engaged audience, which is great for feedback and mentioning your email list. Targeted Facebook ads also don't cost a lot of money. Learn how to spend money on Facebook. It really makes it easy for you, trust me. Target people who purchased a similar game, in this case XCOM and or Battletech, and show your ads only to this audience. Most of all, be unique. For all of your communication, think about what makes you stand out from the crowd. Are you one of the 100 platformers that released today on Steam? Hard to stand out? Are you bringing something very unique to the genre? This is a much better way to generate interest. I believe Halfway could have been much more visible if it had something more unique that was easy to put into ads. Something like XCOM meets Portal, or XCOM but with a deep economy simulation, or XCOM but everybody is an animal playing in a forest. These are sentences that paint a picture in the reader's mind and raise interest. Just examples, but you know what I mean. Don't be the next game with the same features as everybody else. Go find a publisher. Find one with a good track record that is not known for cheating on small indie devs who cannot afford a lawyer. Negotiate a minimum budget that the publisher has to put into acquisition if the game reaches a certain milestone like a Metacritic rating. Yes, this costs money, but a share of 100,000 units sold is more revenue than a full share of only 26,200 units sold. I understand that Robotality partnered with a small London-based publisher, Chucklefish. Still, only 26,200 units sold. If you want to do marketing yourself, in today's environment you can. You don't need a publisher. But this is a full-time job. This means that you have to bring the marketing budget yourself, but it also means that you don't have to have a revenue share with the publisher. Learn how to market your product. I know it sounds strange, but some of the marketing people are actually competent. You surely have worked with some before. Contact them. Ask for help. You will get a few valuable tips, and if you don't know what they are talking about, look up what brand recognition or CPM means. Being an indie developer means you have to know everything, be able to do everything, and fill all the roles by yourself that big studios have hundreds of people for. Okay, that's all for now. I'm really sorry that this game didn't work out financially, but I enjoyed it, and I wish Robotality all the best for the next project. Dear viewer, please don't repeat the mistakes of the games I review. Find new and unknown mistakes to make and shoot for the stars. Have a nice one. Bye bye.